All right, all right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to something new that we're doing. This is Living Lineage, and this will be a weekly live. We will just pop on for 15, 20 minutes and talk about what's going on and sharing ancestral wisdom, sharing any updates and things like that with Ancestors Bosom. Sometimes it'll be a channel message. It's just a time for us to gather and really talk about and explore what it means to embody ancestral wisdom for in our everyday lives. And so today I'm really excited. I am here with Andy, and we are going to be talking about working with fire. There's been a lot of energy, excitement, talk about this entering this new lunar year. So not literally working with fire, working with fire, metaphorically. And maybe if you want to start working with fire, that's fine. Just be safe. But this is an interesting thing that people are really getting more keyed in or cued into the Lunar New Year. I know, Andy, for you, maybe culturally, like this is like what y'all do. And now everybody and their mother talking about the Lunar New Year. But this was a particularly pivotal one as we moved out of the year of the snake and the year into the year of the fire horse. There's a whole lot else going on cosmically too. The planets are doing all kinds of interesting and amazing things. And instead of looking at these energy shifts as chaotic or not knowing what to do with them, just we wanted to talk some today about how do we work with this energy. And so this Lunar New Year has really reset our energetic current. And so when we think about fire, we think about things like movement, courage, visibility, purification, initiation, like all of those things. And the emphasis of fire is not about force. It's like, how do we align with momentum? And so I would offer that this is not a year to just be pushing willy nilly, right? And we're so excited and everyone's been talking about it, but how do we take this year to move when the current is hot, right? And so
I love that.
yeah. So that's what I want to. So Andy, I'll just throw the question to you. And correct me if I am wrong. You know, maybe you have a ritual around Lunar New Year's and things like that that have already been in practice. Has this been anything different for you this year?
You know, when I was living at home, it was a big deal,
Okay.
right? Because my family was very traditional. That night before, like New Year's Eve, you're supposed to
Mhm.
have a big family gathering, and there's certain foods you're supposed to eat that
Yeah.
represents wealth and longevity and stuff like that. But since me and Minna have moved to Texas, we become almost empty nesters. Even though we don't have children, we become empty nesters because we don't have close family.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's been a little bit different in celebration, but we still honor our heritage. We
Yeah.
still celebrate Chinese New Year. We're buying the little things like the lanterns and
Yeah.
stuff like
Yeah.
that. And
Mhm.
just to welcome the new year.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to be cleaning, like sweeping or doing any house cleaning
Yeah.
right before New Year because you'd be sweeping all the wealth away, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's some things that we still do, and it's just sort of ingrained and I guess in our ancestral heritage the way
Yes.
we grew up.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, when I think about like what this meant for me, like as I have like deepened in my ancestral connection, like moving more seasonally has been important, and moving and a big part of that is moving and with the moon, being aware of that and
Mhm.
where with those energies. And moving away from kind of these artificial start points, are these artificial timelines and time frames, and really becoming more in sync with the way that nature is moving. And
Mhm.
so I think that for me was like why um, I was more in tune this year to a Lunar New Year and what that meant energetically for me. As a medicine woman, I've really been like springtime is really the true start. Like that's when
Mhm.
we're really getting things going.
Correct.
But there is like something about like I feel gentle activation, right? As I am moving with the season, because, here we're in winter, as
Mhm.
I am moving into kind of rest and restoration, um, my channel has been more open and more clear, right? And so,
Mhm.
there
Mhm.
is like this quiet activation, quiet momentum building
Yes.
for what will then kind of really pop out,
Yes.
um, during springtime. And so, just when I think about my business, Ancestors Bosom, just the downloads and the hits I'm getting about what I want this year to look like, what that means for offerings. Really channeling the energy and aligning offerings with with the energies that people are going to be feeling. So important for us as like healers and coaches to
Mhm.
be really in tune with the energy of potential clients, our own energy, of course, first, but the energy of potential clients, and making our offers reflect that. As opposed to just, I don't know, oh, I always do this time this year,
Right.
not
Yeah.
no particular rhyme or reason, but really being more resonant in what we're offering. Are you finding any of that? Or yeah.
It's so interesting you bring that up because in this last year, 2025,
Hmm.
I made a lot more spiritual friends like you all, right?
Hmm.
And back in the day, I'm very science based, but
Hmm.
I'm very spiritual because that's the way I'm brought up.
Yeah.
But I really wasn't aware of
Mhm.
a lot of the energies. It's
Yeah.
like I
Yeah.
see I see things, but I never learned to channel it. So I always knew there was that aspect,
Right.
right? And I'm familiar with negative energy, positive energy. I try to
Yeah.
stay away from the negative.
Yeah.
Now, learning from you all, I'm definitely more aware of how energy flows, right?
Mhm.
And like you said, I think it's so important where you're talking about, the momentum for the year to channel your energy moving towards the momentum, but more importantly, matching the energy that your clients need. I think that is just
Yes.
amazing advice.
Mhm. Mhm. Right, because I mean that's how, from as business owners, it's more than just, oh, that's what's going to make me the money. But it is, again, particularly when you're in the kind of the healing work that we're into.
Yeah.
It's deeper than that. We really are. We want to serve and change lives, and if
Mhm.
you're not in tune with what's going on in people's lives, then it's hard to, it's impossible to really do that. And I think that's why some people kind of get stuck, business wise. And it's interesting that I'm even talking so much business talk, but I know there are a lot of people like that has been part of this shift for people. There's a lot of people moving into entrepreneurship, but not even in the traditional sense, like soul led business, right? People
Yes.
coming into what their true mission is and wanting
Mhm.
to actualize themselves in those ways. Some of the old structures of how we would support ourselves financially are collapsing for us. And so, okay, so how do we, kind of reinvent ourselves, or not
Yes.
even reinvent? How do we connect with maybe what was always true to us, and how
Mhm.
do we kind of get into that? And so, yes, definitely being energetically and kind of and even seasonally um, uh, inclined is I think so many people are talking that way now and
Correct.
moving that way now. It's like people are waking up to that, hungry for that, really connecting to that. And so, yeah. So how to work with this energy?
Mhm.
When I think about kind of the fire current of this, like three things kind of came to mind,
Mhm.
and how it's manifesting for me, and how I think it's important to work with this clarity before action, right?
Mhm.
The days of just throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks, like we don't even have I think so many of it, we don't have the energetic capacity for that anymore. Like we're burnt
Mhm.
out on that. And
Yes.
so, and if we think about fire without direction scatters, right?
Mhm.
If you make a fire, a bonfire, or light a fire, on a fire pit, you don't want that thing going.
Out of control. Yes.
You
Yes.
want clarity. You want
Yes.
to make sure that everything is lined up as it should be before you ignite, or before you take action for that. And that applies to our lives, and what we're in this kind of embodying that
Mhm.
ancestral wisdom, getting clarity before action. Yeah, so that's one. The next one also I think is like small visible moves, right? Like, sometimes we feel like, oh, we got to make this big crazy leap.
Mhm.
Again, our nervous systems I just don't think as a collective we can handle that, right?
Correct.
It's just kind of that those small intentional actions that really actually lead to like it amount to a big leap.
Mhm.
Um, and then the last kind of grounded way I thought about was like this whole release through ritual.
Mm.
Even things like writing down intentions or writing down what we're releasing and then burning it, right? Decluttering, speaking our truth out loud, like those kinds of things are ways that we can work with the fire current. So, yeah, are you noticing anything in your clients or in your community, Andy, around maybe working with fire, the fire current, or moving in a different way?
Yeah, I think what you're talking about the clarity, I think that
Mhm.
is so pivotal, in everything that's going on,
Yeah,
because like so many people are taking the big swings, and then when they fail,
yeah,
they just sort of, wow, that was stupid, and they never move on, right? And
right.
having the clarity
Mhm.
and taking a step back to see
Mhm.
where that fire is going, how you're growing that fire, right? You controlling that fire is very important because, like you said, fire can get out of control very easily and can consume you, right? And everyone else,
Yes.
right? So
Mhm.
having that clarity, how you're building the fire, where that fire is
Mhm.
leading,
Mhm. Mhm.
and I think people need to be a little bit more aware of that. And I do notice a lot of people they're doing the little build-ups a little bit more. Even for both me and you, we're starting a new business in March, like a retail store, and we don't we have the grand vision, but we don't just open it and hope people come, right? We're still slowly building up the momentum, building up the interest and what people want,
Yes.
right? So I think that is so important in everything you do, not just for business but even in your relationship and in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And so as you mentioned, yes, we are both kind of launching into physical spaces.
Yes.
Yeah, Ancestors Bosom Herbal Apothecary will be opening next month here locally in Savage Mill in Maryland. And even with like looking into the space and
Mhm.
signing the lease and negotiating the lease, like that was all. It was such. I moved from such a different place than normally I would. It wasn't go go go. It was okay, let's see. And then,
Mhm.
okay, how does this feel? Let me sit with this. Let me sit with my ancestors. Let me
Mhm.
sit with my intuition. And then realizing this can be easy, although there's challenge and work involved.
Mhm.
It
Yeah.
doesn't like that grit and grind is dead, at least for me. And I think for so many people. And so, really, just kind of moving slowly. It was important for me to sign my lease and give myself a nice runway to even build out, like
Mhm.
because again, building this space intentionally. I also think with coming back to physical spaces during the pandemic and all, like, so we moved away so much
Yeah.
from the physical and that one-on-one, that kind of more the in-person community, and
Mhm.
we're so hungry for that. Like, people
Yes,
are
the
ready for
connection,
that.
right? It's so true.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
And but what we did learn, I think, from being more isolated is how to build community more intentionally,
Mhm.
right? And being more careful in
Correct.
how we create an atmosphere that people will want to come in, particularly in doing our healing work, and so I know for you and what you're building out, like what is that looking like? How are you cultivating that? Like what are you excited about?
Yeah, it's sort of like what you said. It started out as an idea,
Uh-huh.
and I was just out with my friend, a chiropractor friend. We spent Christmas together, and I just threw it out. Hey, do you have space available? To lease out. I have this sort of small idea, and it was started out was almost like a joke, right? Like I want to do it, I don't want to do it, right? Because I bought the equipment, and we have all the equipment at home, and I normally use it for myself.
Mhm.
And I said, well, people keep asking what I do, what I do, what I do, and I'm not going to invite them to my home to use my equipment. Right. So it came to a point, maybe what if I start small, right? Rather than going commit and open a big wellness center, start small, work with someone that I believe in and what they do in the holistic space. and then we can have a mini referral. And then, like you said, signing the lease, it's small enough that I don't have to worry about it if things aren't working out initially,
Right, right.
right? But having that common vision of being with people that you can collaborate with
Mhm,
and have the same mindset
mhm.
was very important for me. It wasn't me just trying to find like a big foot traffic or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's a little steps, and like we're just going step by step and seeing where it goes. But I have this grand vision of a large wellness center down the road. But we all have to start somewhere, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. My vision is to have a full on retreat space where people
I
come and
love that.
in
Yeah.
tiny houses and, and there, yes, there'll be an apothecary on site and there'll be
Hmm.
space for, workshop and all that kind of thing. But like going, like, as I mentioned, like kind of these small visible moves, like this
Yes.
is one, like me opening the apothecary, and having not only a retail space, but a space to do workshops and things
Yes.
like that, to start inviting people in and allowing them to connect with my energy, right? Because
Right.
that's what when people are looking for a coach or a healing work and all that,
Hmm.
they are not buying a product. They really are looking for an energetic connection, a spiritual connection. And there's something about a physical space that can hold that. Like people can
Yes.
feel that, and that kind of moving slowly to build it out, making sure it's aligned energetically with any collaborations or partners, like that goes a long way in creating that atmosphere that will magnetize people in. And which is another thing with this whole working with the energy. Again, it's no longer this push, make things happen at all
Right.
costs. It is how can I create conditions that energetically welcome people in, like that
Oh my
people
gosh. Yes.
want, they
Amazing.
want that, like
Yes.
that's what they want. No one wants a hard say, like we have been sold to death, um, and so we're looking for things that feel soft, welcoming, calming,
Mhm.
aligned, magnetic.
Right.
Yeah, and so it's important to kind of be in that space. Yeah, yes, I love that. Well, I do, as a spiritual herbalist, I always got to talk about herbs of the season or
Yeah.
herbs of the time. And one herb that has really been calling to me is hibiscus.
Oh, okay. I love hibiscus.
Yes, and hibiscus is interesting because it does have, like, when you make a hibiscus tea, it's dark, it's very and the tartness and all that, it
Mhm.
reminds me of fire, but hibiscus is a cooling herb. So it's a wonderful balance. Like it has a way of helping us kind of cool off, stay cool, but not it doesn't extinguish the fire. It helps us
Mm.
kind of manage that energy so we don't overheat.
Correct.
Hibiscus, if we think about some of the physical properties, are really good for blood pressure, you know,
Mhm.
regulating blood and all of that, which we think about blood, red, fire, very,
Mhm.
very similar sensibilities. And so, like, working with hibiscus could be really timely for people. And so, some ways I like to work with it. Yes, you can always just put it out, on an altar, or just have some,
Mhm.
as a space for remembrance. But actually making that hibiscus tea and playing around with it, adding a little cinnamon to it. I've been adding a little orange peel. When I'm really feeling a little extra, I might put a splash of brandy in it. You know what I mean?
Oh,
But yeah, so enjoying that fire that we're feeling, but also still moving slowly, still moving
mhm.
intentionally, and keeping our inner fire tempered in the correct way, so that
Mhm.
way we have the longevity, that we don't just burn out, right? That
Correct. Exactly. I love that.
yes, yeah. Yes, and then the taste too. It's just such a good taste. And for me, hibiscus, it starts reminding you of spring, and but it's not spring yet. So it's the perfect kind of transitional herb, I find, to work with. And then you can do hibiscus oils and things like that. But drinking it as a tea has been something that is really worth.
A question on that, Janine, on the hibiscus tea. Do you just use hibiscus petals, or do you mix it with like a green tea, black tea, white tea? Because it is pretty tart for some people,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, yes, it is pretty tart. So you can, but see, that's the beautiful thing. Play around with it. Like let the herbs call to you. The way that I like it most,
Mhm.
I have just been having just a little bit of the petals,
Okay.
and then with a little cinnamon, a little bit of orange. You know, orange gives a slight sweetness, and then some honey to kind of maybe balance out the tartness.
Mhm.
Is a way to do it. But you can mix with other things. Like I also have mixed the hibiscus with elderberry, and elderberry
Oh,
kind of has like a deeper, almost kind of a chocolatey taste.
yes.
So that kind of goes
Right.
well, nice, what nice and wonderful for immunity um,
Mhm.
as well. So, and then hibiscus tea is nice cold as well. So,
Mhm.
um, yeah, yeah. So I would say play around with it, but not being afraid of tart things, not being
Right.
afraid of the bitter things, right? Appreciating the bitterness and
Mhm.
tartness of it. Like I think that it builds up our taste bud
Yes.
tolerance, but I think it also builds up our tolerance for the parts of life
I love that. That's
that
so true.
are not as sweet, right? But that
Yes.
are necessary, you know?
Mhm. Mhm.
So yeah, so much we can learn from from using that and from doing that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hmm.
That's amazing. That's amazing. We always take in what you recommend and try it, and it's amazing what herbs can do for the body, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes. And also for the spirit, right? For the
Mhm.
spirit and for the mind. Yeah. So yeah. I guess we'll just take these last couple minutes to just again talk about anything that's new. Like I said, the apothecary, the physical location for me, I'll be opening up next month, actually March 21st. And that was
Nice. Okay.
is kind of the grand opening target date there. The other thing I thought about too is that Mercury retrograde ends March 20th, so that way.
Okay.
So thinking about the energies of Mercury and retrograde can sometimes be chaotic, but that's a time to just chill out, and
Sure.
then once that moves, then to kind of get that going again. This show, or this kind of hopping on live, we'll be doing
Yes.
weekly every
Yes.
Wednesday at 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern time. And some other things are in the work too. It works for me too. The Ancestors Bosom School of Ancestral Wisdom is
Mhm.
coming online and coming together,
Love that.
doing more teaching, more mentoring,
Mhm.
and really people who really want to immerse themselves in
Correct.
ancestral wisdom and what that looks like for them, connecting with that moving forward. Yeah, those are things I'm all excited about. So those are some of the things that this fiery energy have been birthing for me. And so,
Mhm.
Andy, you have your space coming up, but anything else? What else is coming up?
Oh my gosh. There are just so many moving parts.
Mhm.
At some point, I want to release our longevity collective with the chronic health collective, right? Where we can all, collaborate and give our wisdom to people where they can ask more questions about that. That's in the works. I have the back end all done. But like you said, I want to set it up where we're building the momentum, we're building it, the clarity,
Mhm.
and have a better clarity of what people want. So
Mhm.
that's why I love these type of shows. We get some feedback from people what they're looking for, rather than like you said, us just giving them something that we think they need, right? So
Mhm.
I think that is so important in taking the smaller steps and giving people what they need right now, not what we think they need.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I think that's probably a good place to start. I would encourage all of you who've tuned in, spread the word, come and see us, again, every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern. And as you go through this week, pay attention to where the fire is asking you to move. Not wildly, but
Mhm.
wisely. And so this has been Living Lineage, Ancestral Wisdom shared in real time. And we'll see you next week. Thank you, Andy.
Thank you. We'll see you everyone next week.
Absolutely.